Hey guys, so we're going to dive in and start making music because that's really what we're here to do, right? So like I've mentioned in the previous video, we just kind of got a good layout of Ableton and we have sounds right here. And these are all different presets that Ableton made for us to start making music with what you'd call a virtual instrument. And all these different presets should be used on MIDI tracks because these are MIDI devices and MIDI sounds. So if I go to my instruments folder, each one of these instruments is creating one of these presets in one of these sounds. And then if I open up these instruments, you can see that there's more presets in here that are made by each one of these instruments. So sounds is just a way of organizing those presets into how they sound. So for example, we have ambient and evolving. I can open that up. There's one in here that sounds kind of tight. It's called chimes and bow. And if I want to load a preset, I can just kind of click on them and you can hear it show a preview of them. Notice this little headphone blue jack. If it's highlighted, then you can actually hear whatever you're clicking on and it'll preview it. So I'm just going to drag and drop that onto a MIDI track. Or if the MIDI track's already highlighted, I can just double click and it'll load it onto the track that is highlighted. So we can see the chimes and bow on here. You can take your cursor and expand your browser window. I typically stay in session view getting started when I start making music and producing, just because I feel like if you understand session view really well, then arrangement view is a lot easier. And as you create a workflow using these scenes, which we'll talk more about later, then I can start using my tab button to go back and forth to arrangement and session view and go back and forth and get really creative about how I start composing my music. So we have all these different clip slots. And if I double click, it'll create a blank MIDI clip for me. So now you can see down here we have a clip view, and I can toggle back and forth between the device and the clip view. We have two views here at the bottom. If I double click on the name of a track, it'll take me to the other view, which is our device view right now. And you can see the preset we loaded. If I double click on this MIDI clip, it'll take me into the clip view. You can also use the shortcut Shift tab, and shortcuts are going to be your best friends. Trust me, it'll save you time and hassle and headaches. So you'll be a happier person using shortcuts. And I'll post all the shortcuts used in each video at the bottom in the unit throughout this course. So if I double click in this clip, now you can see there's a MIDI note that is created. If I take my cursor to the end of the note, I can click and drag it out. And you'll notice it snaps into the background, which is what we call the grid, all these lines going vertically. And you can see that these lines are matching up with the timing of this clip. Everything in Ableton wants to play perfectly in time with the tempo up here, the project tempo, which is 120 right now. And BPM stands for beats per minute. But Ableton wants to play perfectly in time, like I said. So you can change the grid background for the notes to snap into. The notes are snapping into automatically whatever the grid is when I double click. And I can change the grid timing to be longer or shorter. Right now we have quarter notes and we have like 30-second. Right now it's on 16th notes. So I'll change it to quarter notes. And now if I just double click a note, it's going to snap into the background and I can click and drag it up and down. I can also highlight a note and use my arrow keys on my computer keyboard to make it go up and down. If we have the blue headphone jack over here highlighted, then you can hit any of the notes over here on the left. It's like a sideways piano. And you can hear, if I turn it off, you won't hear anything. But yeah, so we can also duplicate notes. And the faster you get with editing MIDI notes in a clip, the better off you're going to be. So that's kind of what I'm showing you right now. If I highlight this note, you'll see this white line at the top of the clip. You'll notice that this white line is highlighting based on the grid, not the note. So if I want to duplicate this, I'll highlight the amount of the grid, hit duplicate, and then it duplicates that note within the grid in the background based on that amount of time. So changing the background grid to 16 notes, and I make that shorter. I can highlight the grid and hit duplicate. You'll want to start learning more shortcuts. Command D is duplicate. And you can highlight and just hit Command D and it'll duplicate anything pretty quick. If I hit play up here at the top, you might be wondering, like, why don't I hear these notes being played? And that's because we have to actually launch a clip, the actual clip itself, in order to hear what that clip has inside of it. So if I have multiple clips and I just hit play up here at the top, Ableton won't know what to play. We have to tell which clip to be playing. You can only play one clip in a track at a time. So I could not play both of those clips at the same time. And that clip doesn't sound that good, but you get the idea of basic editing. So if I wanted to undo these notes, I can just use Command Z, or I can go up to the Edit tab and choose Undo, and that'll be your best friend in case you make a mistake. You also notice shortcuts are next to your options in any of these windows, so getting familiar with that is helpful. You also have a help view down here at the bottom left as you're scrolling over anything with your cursor. If you click that arrow in the bottom left, it's the info view. Anytime you hover your cursor over something, it's going to give you a detailed description, which is super helpful to get familiar with Ableton's layout as you continue to go.